Hey everybody, I hope you can hear me. Welcome to this new stream, to this new live stream. I really hope that this live stream this time does not, does not just break up and cancels everything. This would be really bad, but I got a new graphics card and a new network card, so I really hope this works this time. Because last time the network card was the issue. So, okay, so welcome to this. So let's do a quick test on if everybody can hear me. Shout it out in the box if you can hear me, and then we let Utzel talk. By the way, Utzel, his real name is Julius, and he's one of the developers of the World Creator team. And today he's sharing us.
Yes, hello. I think they can already hear you, according
awesome.
to the chat. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear Utzel too? Loud and clear, awesome, that's great, perfect.
Perfect.
Okay, do you also hear a slight background music? If it disturbs you, then I can turn it off. If not, then we can just keep it up a little bit. Because I personally like it if there's some kind of noise in the background. Then sometimes if nobody talks, it's not that empty. Okay. Okay, let me just make it a little bit smoother. Okay, perfect. Okay, so less loud, then we can do it like down to 12. Perfect. Okay, so this live stream, just a warning, it might take a long time because our list is really long. So actually we have like, let me check this, we have like 10 points on the list. The first one is like we're starting with a new project. I'm going to introduce you a little bit into the rendering settings so we can set up a really nice initial rendering for project that we're going to use throughout the entire presentation, where we're going to show the biomes and the materials and the objects, which would be number 2, 3, and 4. Then number 5 would be like optimizing the rendering process, showcasing you how to optimize the entire render progress. If you have a low-end GPU or not that powerful GPU, then with these techniques you can reduce it a little bit so World Creator runs way more smoothly on your computers. Yeah, then we have also the points which where we're going to cover what's planned for this year. So there's a couple of features that is coming this year, and we will cover this in the stream too, and also what's planned for next year, for 2026. And that list is incredible and a really huge step towards an amazing, totally new kind of, you know, I don't know the word for it, but some sort of a new application of World Creator. It's like it's new era that the World Creator goes into. So that will be really interesting for you. And yeah, I would say we will start with the very first point, and that is creating a new project, setting up a few things, explaining a few things, and then we'll step through every changes and every new feature that we made, so you get an idea of what has changed and how things work now. Most of the projects are backwards compatible. Some not, specifically if you use the previous Biome System, but more on this later. Okay, so the first thing is this menu here. You already noticed. So if you go to the samples screen here, you can see a lot of new samples arising in World Creator here. Also, which I think is more important for you to notice, is that we have here some samples that do have some objects in it, right? So don't be afraid, these objects belong to the Bytes company. This is the company behind World Creator, and those assets are completely royalty free to be used by you and your own projects. There's only one limitation. You're not allowed to resell them as is, as a single standalone package or whatever, but you can, you know, incorporate them into your sample files that you create with World Creator, or into your samples that you create with Unreal Engine or Unity, or if you do a Blender scene, or, you know, just you are really free to use them, and yeah, visualize them, push it out, and, you know, creating games with it, and all this. And this asset packs, but yeah, we'll come to this later, because we are just creating more assets as I'm speaking here. Assets are already in production. There's a huge asset pack with included World Creator, mostly regarding vegetation stuff. Okay, so let's go to the new here. And so this is what you will see when you run World Creator 2025.1. Yeah, short information. I'm using a way more new build. This is actually marked here as 2025.1. So we left it for the stream, but basically this is a version between 25.1 and 0.2, because we already have added some of the features. If you watch our website, there's a new roadmap button to the bottom right corner, and some of the new features already have been implemented. So we have planned that we're going to release a new update by the end of this month. So said in October. Okay, so now I think most of you know the controls. It's WASD. Typically, like in games, you can move in, move out. You can also strafe up and downwards, and all this. You can rotate your camera by holding the right mouse button and moving your mouse. You can scroll in with your mouse wheel to the location where your mouse points at. You can also adjust the camera speed. It's just exactly the same as in Unreal. So if you press and hold the left mouse key and you move your mouse wheel, then you can see that you can adjust the movement of your camera here. Okay. So what has changed is that we're no longer tracking the distance to the terrain. So the camera remains at the same speed. You can also currently just move through the terrain. The thing is that it's not very performant to raycast everything here, so we just remove it temporarily until we find a better solution for that. However, until that, just use the camera speed optimization functions here to get a proper view of your terrain and everything else. The next thing, and this is one of the most important parts, because I just realized on Discord that some people don't even know that we have this in. So what I want to show you here is, if you move your mouse, you can already see there's a lot of noise, especially in these parts here. You can see that there's a lot of noise around. This is what you know from World Creator 2022, 23, 24. And there is now a nice toolbar icon here. It's called Denoiser. So if you enable this one, all that noise is basically completely gone. So it builds up very, very quickly. It denoises your image very, very, very quickly. And yeah, it's way more, I would say, way more comfortable for your eyes, at least for my eyes, and makes it a lot more fun to render the scenes and navigate through the terrain. You will see this when we place and scatter the objects and all that. Okay, so this is actually basically the first thing that I'm doing, enabling here when I start a new project, enabling the denoiser here. We should actually do this by default, I think.
Yeah, that might be a good idea.
Yeah, yes. But you know, Double is Timo Ambrose. He's one of the other devs of World Creator. He said we shouldn't do that because sometimes the denoiser might just eat up too much performance and low-end hardware. So it's basically, if you go to render settings, you can see that here denoise enabled. Some quality setups for fast, but I would say it's fast enough. I don't know. I had no issues with it. Okay, I have a really powerful GPU now, but I didn't have any issues on a 3080. Do you have issues on a 3080?
No, it's working fine. I mean, we could maybe make it dependent on the GPU they have in there, so that we check above a certain GPU and then we enable it by default. That might work, but yeah. Yeah,
I agree. Okay, but we'll cover a few more performance updates here, what you can do to improve your performance on the scene. So, okay, now let's go. My list shows that we should set up a little bit regarding rendering. So go in here to the main camera first, and yeah, I'd like to show you a nice tool that we're using. Some people asked us as well about this one here, so I'm just moving in here. So this is called the Eagle browser. If you do a quick search on Google, you will find it, Eagle browser. It's a really cool tool because it just shows all your models, all your textures. You can you know, you can organize them in folders and all that stuff. It has a really nice preview also for the objects and everything. It's really an amazing tool. We used it in and out through the entire development along by testing a lot with the objects and all that stuff. So highly recommend it. It's not expensive, it's really cheap, and yeah, go and get it. It's really amazing. And I would say it works with everything, right? I don't know, but I have no issues with it.
Yeah, I think there's an extension that we need to enable for objects, but those are also included in the software. So
yeah, that's really cool.
Just easy.
I really love it. It's great. It's really so much. It's really amazing. Okay, so we got some LUTs here. All these LUTs that you see here, you can download them. If you go to the website and log into the customer portal, you navigate to assets, and there should be a, I think there should be a selection for LUTs. So you can download the LUTs package. And I'm going to use the LUT number 25. I just drag and drop that from that browser into my, oh, I just need to enable this first. So let's enable the LUT enable here. Let's drag and drop this in here so we get a, because we're going to create a nice scene. Basically, we're not really creating it because I'm just showing it a few things, but the scene will use that LUT in the end. So we're just going to load it in and step through it. But I think it would just be too much in this live stream to show how that scene was built. I think that should be done in the Let's Create video series. So I'm going to show you how you can achieve these things, some basic stuff. And then if you invest more time, you can do amazing stuff with it. And this thing will prove it. So you'll just will see that. Okay, what's also interesting is here the tone mapping. So it really depends. I personally like Uncharted number 2 here. It gives a pretty interesting, nice rendering for me, but my colleagues like ACS simple. In most cases also exact, so different results here as well. Yeah, these are typical settings for brightness, contrast, saturation for the camera. Sharpen, I like to sharpen up my images a little bit. So let's do something like maybe 0.30. I personally love bloom, but okay, this would be a bit too much, I guess, right now for this rendering here. And what else would we have? Yeah, we should set up the sun a little bit, so we don't want to have too much of lighting here. So let's just see if we can go to something like that here. Okay, so and one interesting thing is also if you want to have if you enable environment map and you have these environment maps from, I think we got them from Polyheaven.
Yeah.
Then you can load them in here by just drag drop. Yeah, and Word Creator is going to use them here. And of course my LUT is a little bit kind of, you know, changing the colors. That's what LUTs typically do. So you can load them in here. And if you want, you can also give this a ground plate. So that way, depends on what you like. I could just leave it away from here, but I will keep my environment map enabled here. So, okay, and the next thing I think where we should adjust maybe the atmosphere strength. That could be something which could be adjusted a little bit, but this really depends on if you want to have fog or something like that, specifically to mimic deep scenes or, you know, distances between objects and all that stuff. So I will keep it with this setting here. So we're moving on with this one. Okay, so now we're moving on to the material system because this really has changed. If you let's take this simple material. So we got the base color here for the terrain itself, and you no longer have this sort of, if you press plus, it just adds a new material. In the previous versions, there were a drop down where you could select the color, a texture. I think there was a gradient. I don't know, some sort of occlusion stuff, and
yeah,
substance
material as well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So now we have, because the issue between those was that it was not possible to really blend them. You know, blending a gradient with the textures and the color would require you basically having two, yes, I think two materials, because colors was in there too. But the core issue was blending textures with the gradients. That was not possible before, but now it is, and that's really cool. So just to show you this kind of feature, if you want gradients, let me just add a new material here. So if you want gradients, you just hit the gradient enable button here, And then you have some presets here that you can select off. So let's take this one here first. And on the first look, oh, this looks bad because this is my gradient, but I just see one single color. That's because of the gradient distribution and the distribution. So that's important to understand. The distribution tells World Creator where you want the gradient to be applied. For example, we could use some sort of, let's take slope. So we use slope, that it means everything between 0 and 25 degrees should have that material applied. But still, there's just one color for the gradient, and that's where the gradient distribution comes into account. So the gradient distribution is also, it's exactly the same distributions as you see for the default distribution, but it uses the let's say the blending of the mask that is created to apply the gradient. So if we, for example, if we just let me remove that slope, so let's apply this all over the terrain. So if you use slope here, where is it? There we go, slope. Then you can see that it now maps the gradient colors depending on the slope mask. Okay, so because we have less slope around here, because this is what my slope tells, only on these areas, on the more flattened areas, it goes to the red part, and everything downwards in between goes into the other coloring. And that can be, extended to everything. You could use for the curvature. You could use, for example, let's take a noise. Let's take simplex here, simplex noise. And depending on what we adjust here, we get different gradients. Now, if we want to make it really fancy for more natural looking stuff, then we go into the presets. For example, we could choose some vegetation kind of gradients and get them applied here. And that's also interesting because this is also, I think, pretty new here. It was the gradient detail. So if you enable that one, let me choose another one because this is more biased. Let's take the height gradient here. So it's now applied along the height. And if you choose the gradient detail, you can see that World Creator creates these I don't know how you would call them, like straight lines.
Yep. Kind of shifting the colors. You can also see it in the gradient that is displayed under the gradient settings. So it basically shifts the values to the right and left, and adds more detail to the whole gradient. Yeah.
And you can control the detail strength, the shading strength as well. That's really cool. Yeah, and the offset strength here too. So that's pretty nice. I see it also does some stuff not really interesting for us, but yeah, that's great. If you want to change gradient colors, then you just pick up one of these elements here, like your Photoshop, and then you switch the color to something different, and you get it right done like this here, for example. And now comes also the other thing, because now we have these textures here. So that's also important to mention is, so previously, if you wanted to mix in textures, then you would have to add another material as a texture material and adjust the distribution, like using these opacity and fill distributions to mix them in. But this was really not a really nice solution. So we changed this, and now you can just choose what you want to have, like what kind of texture types you want to have, right? So you could, for example, you could use a set. That would be like you just drag and drop your single textures into the proper channels. And there you can see that we're already also supporting ambient and emission textures. We'll come to this later. Or another option is, if you choose package, then you can drop in a zip file that contains all your textures. So basically such a zip file, it's, let me see if I can quickly show this to you. Okay, so let's take, I don't know, let's take one of these here. So we have prepared some of these zip files here. These are basically from Megascans. Let's take, for example, that. So a zip file contains the textures. They should have a proper naming, of course, but I think we support like almost every possible names that are typical, like underscore color, underscore albedo, underscore displacement, or underscore disp, or underscore norm, you know. And as long as you keep this like underscore color, underscore displacement, this kind of naming value, then naming convention, then you can drop in the textures in that zip file, and Word Creator will detect them automatically. So if I now drag and drop that in here, it loads in the it just loads in the texture. It mixes it with the colors of my gradients, and if I move in, you can see the texture gets visible and colored depending on the gradient I have here. And of course, also these settings like stochastic distribution. We have displacement mapping enabled here as well, so we come to this later. And you can of course adjust here a lot of stuff regarding the texture coloring and all that. So that's pretty cool. I really like that. Flip normals, despite if there should be some gloss textures included as well, if there's some sort of glossiness included. If you want that, then it reads the gloss values of the texture itself. So in this case, we do have some gloss information here. Yeah, it gives a really huge amount of possible mixing capabilities that is really, really amazing. And yeah, I think all our samples are using actually textures already. I don't think we have any sample anymore left that...
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, yeah, we did that. I don't know. Okay, so we got that one done here. Of course, then the tile size, also interesting here. I find it pretty difficult because sometimes it's like you're placing your mannequin. If you ask how to place a mannequin, hover with your mouse over the terrain, press the M key on your keyboard, and then you can place that mannequin. And that mannequin can be adjusted in size. If you go to scene, you can adjust the size here for the mannequin as well. And I think that's one of the most difficult parts when creating terrains, is like finding the proper size, finding the proper look of the mountains that looks realistic compared to the size of your mannequin, of your textures and your objects. So that's basically one of the most, I would say, challenging art stuff that you will need to do when designing terrains. I don't know. Okay, so when you place a mannequin, then of course make sure that you adjust also your tile size here, so it looks realistic and not unrealistic, you know. You can offset them. You can also, now this is also something you can rotate the tiles here. That I discovered this feature to be really nice if you want to do cornfields or something like that. I mean, I could show this interesting approach. It's pretty simple. Yeah, then you have also sometimes you have some slopes that are really hard, and you get some really heavy stretching. That this is what the let me see if we can show this. Let me just add another filter here. We need some sort of, let's take maybe terrace filter. Yeah, let's take the terrace filter. So at some point we might get some stretches like here. So if your texture is stretching like this, you go to the material, enable tree cloud projection, and it gets aligned properly. It looks much better. Okay. So now the next thing is about emissive colors for materials. And I think because I have that nice sample, we should just showcase this using the volcano sample here. So what you see here, this was really set up very, you know, it looks complicated, it's not, okay? What I've done here is a material, it's that one here. It just enabled the enable emission toggle here. If you disable it, it looks like this. Now in Word Creator we support emissive material, so material really emits light, and that light, of course, you know, reflects on your terrain and everything in your whole surrounding and everything, all that stuff. So in this case it looks amazing because of the clouds, because the emissive material also lightens up the clouds and reflects everything, draws back, and you get these really nice shapes here of the clouds as well. Let's disable the clouds, and you can see that here. You can see that here on the terrain. Oh, let me click read, because I just boosted it a little bit using the bloom effect here. You can see that how the terrain is lightened up here using that material, right? So again, without emission and with emission, we got this done here. And basically to achieve that lava stream, it's just a fluid simulation. Just to show you this one here too. If I disable it, nothing in here anymore. Let's enable it and we're done. So if you ask how this is done, it's pretty simple. Create a fluid simulator, drag and drop this into the distribution of your material. The material is only applied where water or where the fluid, or in this case the lava stream, is created on your terrain and how it flows. So the material is really just, you know, distributed on those parts of the terrain. This also works for everything, for the debris, for the sand and all that stuff. But you know, those are not new features. Those were in 2024 as well. But we're gonna do tutorial videos on how to use the simulations exactly. But just for you to aware, our material system now supports emission colors. Okay, what do we have on the list here on top? So we have the gradients. We have presets. So you can create presets of every material, which is very, very easy to do. So all you need to do is just go in here to the presets folder, select, for example, for the material, you can create your own folder and just drag and drop this material, for example, down here. And now it's a preset. So you can use it throughout the entire World Creator projects that you create and share all these presets with your, you know, with your colleagues, with your team. They can use them as well. So once you set up your material, which I don't know, fits for lava or for water or for sand, for whatever, create a preset out of it and you can reuse it in further projects as well. I'm going to remove it here. I don't want to show that right now. Okay, so we got the textures, we got the texture packs. Of course, you can also use Adobe Substance Materials. Just you know, select the substance material. Let's go back to another scene here again. Let's go for a new material. Let's choose substance. And I don't know, I don't have a substance right away here, but you just can drag and drop that in and it shows up. So substance materials fully supporting World Creator, no limitation at all. Yeah, displacement mapping. So let's talk about displacement mapping. Let me drag and drop this new material here. Let me quickly flatten this terrain. Let's move in a little bit. Let's make the tile size a little bit larger for this material. Something like this. So displacement is by default enabled here, but it's not enabled for the entire rendering system. So you need to do this. If you want to do this, you go to that icon here, displacement, and it's in. And that way you get that depth feeling. Well, basically it's really depth, so it's no fake. Let's see that here. Really cool. I use it quite often. There's just one disadvantage currently. It does not work on high slopes. So that means if I'm going to add some sort of slope stuff here, displacement is going to break. So this is because the rasterizer, or let's say the path tracer, is not properly using the displacement maps here. As you can see, it looks kind of weird a little bit. Because it's not aligned with the normals, which should be the case. It goes just like straight upwards, and if you overdrive it too much, then your displacement will look really weird. Okay, so be careful with this a little bit until we get a good solution for this. This will happen once we have the new renderer fully completed, where we're gonna support this even for higher slopes too. Okay, so now about exporting things. This is also a most common question. So export works like if you go here to export, you click you want to export something and you create an export preset. And that export preset, of course, can be saved again here as an export. So, for example, I could use, let's say I could create a export preset specifically for Unreal or for Unity or for Blender, where I, for example, have my color map, my splat map, and my normal maps, but I don't need other maps too. And if you want to export specific maps, then you need to hit the plus button here again and choose what you want to export. And you can see that we have a lot of export possibilities. So you can export height maps, splat maps, color maps, normal maps, even meshes, of course. That's new. Object details, object instances. Maybe also you can explain a few things about the object details and object instances.
Yes. I think we're going to get on those later when we talk about the objects, but in just a short recap. So the instances, there you get to export it. So all the objects as a point cloud, which can then be used in tools like Blender or wherever you want to use it to spawn the object itself on. And if you use the detail export, in that case, you'll get a splat map, which then can be used to procedurally scatter objects on that masked area. And that all depends on how you reference them in the object itself. We'll show that when we add the objects in the scene as well.
Yeah, we're gonna cover this in the next step right now. So basically, it's like if you're exporting instances, it really means it creates a file where each instance that is marked as an instance in World Creator exports the position, rotation, scaling, and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, as well as gradient information. So if you use a gradient for changing colors or modifying it in some way, that is also exported in there.
So basically, all settings
and it's all
right. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So
and
basically,
the whole layout.
So if you know the format of that export file, you basically could also write your own script to read it, right?
Yes, exactly. The format is described in the documentation as well, so you'll find all the information on how it's laid out in the file there.
Yeah, and the details is more like a mask, right? So it's just a mask where these objects are located, like a distribution mask.
Yeah, it's basically a splat map, but on top of that, you get an info file where the individual scale ranges and model scales are described, so that you can one-on-one directly rebuild it based on that file.
Okay.
So you can easily set up your own system for that.
That's great. Awesome. Okay, now that we got the materials done here, let's move on to the next step. Let me quickly flatten this out here. Flatten it, done. And let's show this grid, because we now need that grid here. Let me adjust a little bit my lighting here. So let's move down. This is my human here. We're gonna place some objects here. Okay, the first thing, I currently recommend you, if you wanna place objects in your scene, I really recommend you to use GLB, okay? This format is really clear, it's clean, it's 100% supported in World Creator. I think we also import FBX and OBJs, but there's an issue, I think currently there's an issue that the textures are not imported properly. And if you know model formats like FBX and OBJ, you know how painful these are, right? Because I think alone FBX has, I don't know, 8-10 different versions. This is crazy. And even then, I think some importers still have issues with FBX files. So we choose, I would say that we choose really with keeping in mind that we 100% purely support GLB. So this is what I recommend you. And I think in most cases, I think most professional application, I would say the most professional applications already support GLB files. I know that Blender does it. I think Cinema does it too. I mean, Unreal does it. Yeah, so I think they can import and export that too. So no worries about that. So I'm going to do a video on this, explaining you how you can, for example, load in a model from Fab and export it out of Unreal. And if the export doesn't work, instantly, because we just had that case a few days ago in a Discord chat, where a user had an issue by importing models that he tried to export as GLB files from out of Unreal, and some of the models were really looking weird, like completely destroyed. And I really had to look into it, and there were some limitations about the indices. However, there's a workaround. If you export them as an FBX and import them into Blender and export then out of Blender as GLB, this works always, okay? So I'm going to do a video about this specific case, so you are aware. But in most cases, it just works. No worries about that. Okay, so about objects. So I'm going to use here a Nature Manufacturers forest pack, which is really amazing, by the way. I think they have this on Unity, of course, and they have this in on the Unreal Store as well. Nature Manufacturer, really great. And we'll do in this. Well, in the first step, we're going to show you how to import the objects and placing them manually. Okay, so import is pretty simple. Just drag and drop again, and drag and drop into the scene file here, to that scene node. And once it's imported, you can select it here. You can see that model here. You can scale the model in all these settings. We just covered it. And now about placing. So if you want to place that model, make sure you select it. Then hit the left shift key and hover over your terrain. Just hold the left shift key and hover over your terrain. You can see that the object is placed on your terrain. So if it's, but basically it's not placed yet. Yeah? It's just like, you know, like a preview. So during that case here, during that moment where you're not having placed it, you can scale that object up. So if you hold the left shift plus, it's a little bit complicated, the left control key, and using your mouse wheel, you can scale your model. Okay. If you, let me see, rotate was okay. If you hold the left shift key, I mean, there's also you can see the box below. If you hold the left shift key and the left control plus the left alt, you can rotate the object. Okay. It's kind of weird a little bit on the beginnings, but once you get used to it, it's pretty simple. And you can also move it up a little bit, like if you want to move it along the y-axis, then hold the left control, left shift plus the Y key. So in US keyboards is the I think it's a Z key, right? Which is below the X. Yeah, below beside the X. Okay, that way you can place the object up and down. Sometimes that's pretty good because you want to have floating objects, something like that. Okay, and once you're done, place it. And each time you place it, just watch my object rotation. Let me see. It's rotated differently, right? So you get different variations why this object is placed on your terrain. And this can be even further adjusted. If you see the settings here, you could, for example, have a different scale range. So if you set the scale range to this one, and each time you want to place something, you get different sizes for the object as well. Okay, so that's sometimes pretty cool to have this feature included here as well. Yeah. So you could do some, you know, work out some sort of map, place your stuff and all that. And yeah, we have that really nice. Where is that? Oh yeah, we got that one. That's really nice. Let's drag and drop another object here. It's a castle. It's a castle ruin. Here we go. Put it in here. Really nice. Okay. Now this is manual placement. The interesting part about this is there is some sort of overriding feature in World Creator. So we'll come to this. We're going to place the objects completely procedurally. So nothing, you know, no manual placement anymore. The really fast way. Before we do this, I'm going to show you another sort of object placement, which is called scattering, but using a brush. So for example, let's take that tree here. So instead of placing them manually here, one instance after another, we could use a scatter tool here, which is basically a brush. And then we can do the same things here. So we have something like the scatter radius. You can control this if you hold the left control key on your keyboard down and move your mouse wheel. You can adjust that scatter radius. The scatter distance basically says in what kind of distances these objects should be placed, and the scatter density says how dense these objects should be placed. For example, so if we increase the density, we're placing a lot more. Removing objects is very simple. Hold the left control key, just press it, and yeah, just drop. It's going to delete everything. It's not deleting my my castle here. It just deletes those objects that are selected here. What else is interesting here is about, I think, let me see, the height offset could be adjusted. You can also snap to other objects. So for example, if I enable this one here, I could snap my, oh, this was a bit too much here, I think. I could snap my objects to that. Let me see if I can catch it. I don't know. Maybe we should make it a little bit smaller. I don't know.
Yeah, you could try to set it align to normal as well. So in that case,
normal.
you should
that.
get like
let's make it a little bit smaller. I don't know. It's maybe too huge, right? Yeah. Let's get range. Oh, we got one. Oh, wait. The scatter density. Let's remove this a little bit. Let's make this small. Okay, let's try again. Oh, here we go. There we go. Okay, so that way we can scatter objects on objects. Okay, I would say it's not really common to scatter trees on ruins, but you know, you get the idea. If you have some sort of grass or moss or something like that, you have a rock, then you could scatter moss on the rock, or some mushrooms on the rock. I don't know, maybe some birds inside the trees or whatever. This is a neat feature, which is pretty cool. I don't use it often, I must admit. I don't know why, but maybe I'm not that.
Yeah, I mean, you could, in theory, use it if you have a big terrain scan.
Yeah.
And want to work on that, so that could work. Additionally, there was one question about focusing on an object, so that you can maybe you can show that real quick.
Yeah, you can. If you go back to single here, you need to select single, because that way you can select objects. So just, you know, selecting an object and then just press F. And you've pressed F, it just takes the focus of that object here.
Exactly, and that also works for the whole terrain. So
yeah,
it always zooms you out.
If no object is selected, you press F. Yep. You get the full focus for this terrain. Yep. Yeah. Selecting objects is also just for you to know. Like in this case, I'm not able to select the castle. I only can select trees. That's because I selected the trees, so I can select 3 instances of the same tree. Another thing that's really important to know is that you can create folders. So the idea is now the following. I need a few more assets in here so to showcase. So let's move that beach into that folder here. And let me see. Let's get in some more stuff. Let's get some grass maybe. Yeah, let's drop in some grass into my folder here too. Whoop. Go in here. Let's take some rocks into this folder. And the thing now, what I can do with these folders, and this is currently a bug. If you need to select an object first and then the folder. I'm sorry about this. It's a bug. We gotta fix that. We just discovered it today. If you select the folder, then you can see that multiple objects are selected, right? So if you now want to place things, this is what's going to happen. So it's just randomly taking things out of that folder and you know, does stuff with it. If you choose scatter, then that would mean that it will scatter. Oh, we need to adjust the grass here. That's too high.
Yeah, that's a bit large.
Yeah, way too large. Yeah. So let's choose scatter and let's choose the folder, and then you can see what's going to happen. So it scatters everything that's inside the folder. It uses the trees, it uses the grass, it uses the rocks. That's just the rocks here too. And you can tell what creator about the percentage. It's basically just that slider. If you reduce it, like I want to have no rocks, so it just scatters grass and trees. I want to have rocks, but I don't want to have trees, but I want to have grass. Then you do this. Okay, so I think that this is really a cool feature. And in that case, so if you have this, you can select every element that is inside that folder. Okay, so when selecting the single you want to have and you put these elements in the folder, then you can select these 3. Still, you can't select the castle because the castle is not part of that folder. Okay, that's important to understand. I think we had a question about this, so that's why I'm explaining this a bit more in depth. Okay, about this kind of placement, I don't know, scatter things. To be honest, I'm not an artist. I think no one of us is really an artist. I think you have an artist background, right?
Yeah, I'm maybe the closest, but yeah.
Yeah. You need to know that he worked for RDT Textures before his.
Yeah, but that is more in the asset creation pipeline and not in world building. So that's a different discipline again.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
However, okay, let's say we're not artists, right? let's come to this point. And the issue is always if programmers try to do something amazing and the artist says, yeah, it looks great, but the workflow is kind of weird. I know that you guys watching, I bet you're better artists than we are, okay? So if you have any ideas or suggestions regarding the scattering things and, selecting options, whatever, yeah, join us on Discord. Let us know about feature, improvements and all that stuff. We are always looking forward to this to make this more accessible to everybody. So I'm basically a more programmatic user. So what my feeling says is like, oh, this makes sense, and I just say, okay, we need to do it like that way. So, but of course, professional artists sometimes use it in a different way. So yeah. Okay, I think you understand what I'm trying to say. Okay, then there's one more thing here, which is interesting. Let's say you're, let me see. Let's say you just created a what kind of scene here, and then you do something like this. Okay, so you're repainting your terrain. And then you get to the point, oh no, I have to replace all my objects again. No, you don't really have to do that. Just go in here and hit align to terrain, okay? So when everything is going to align. So that's a really neat and handy feature, I think. So this will make changes possible on your terrain base shape, regardless if you're using the sculpt layer or you just do it entirely procedural. This always works. Okay, but for the manual placement objects like these are, you really need to push that button. The procedural placed objects, they are automatically adapting to the terrain, so that's also a difference. Okay, I will leave these objects here on my terrain. I'm not going to touch them. I'm not going to remove them because I want to show you now how to use the procedural placement and what specific options, settings like the override radius here will cause on when placing procedural objects. Okay, so are you ready to place a few million trees here? Okay, no problem. So let's do that. Okay, I hope WordCreator is not going to crash. No, just kidding. It didn't crash in the past week, so I'm pretty sure that will work. Okay, let's take again trees from Nature Manufacturers. So I'm now drag and dropping here into. Oh, I need to open up my biome here. So we're now talking about this part here, okay? The best is just drag and drop your object directly into this objects field here. And as soon as you did that, you can see that WordCreator scatters them all over your entire terrain. Now you got almost like the same settings like in the previous ones here. So let's start with scaling up the objects a little bit so we can scale them here up. The next thing is we want to do some variations. Easily can be done here with this properties, uniform scaling, scale range. So we want to have some smaller ones, we want to have some larger ones, and all these things. The next thing is we want to fill in the scene with more objects. So this is way too less. We need more. Okay, then use the instance distance. This means that the distance between each of these instances is currently set to 32. Okay, so if you reduce that, then basically the distance gets smaller and the object getting way more in to the entire scene. So you're now placing a lot of objects already here, and we can really masking this mass placement here. So as you can see now, I don't know how much we have. You can quickly check that. We have just 31,000, no problem. Web Critic easily can handle up to 11 million, something like that. No problem. Okay, now I will leave this, and you can see that, oh, my previous objects I set are really overwritten. It seems like they are no longer here. And what I'm going to do is I'm taking my castle here, and the first thing I'm going to make this a little bit larger so we can see that. But you can see the objects. Maybe we need to lighten up the scene a little bit. Let me switch to this mode here. This is a bit more for visualization reasons when you're designing stuff. So that's my castle, so I'm going to make that, and you can see that the procedural objects are still there, right? But I don't want that, basically. So what I can do here is I use the override radius here. So if I start to use that, you can see that it makes sure that any other object that is placed here, in this case, not the manual place one. The manual place ones are really like, I wanted them to be there, so that's why they are there, okay? But the procedural ones, in this case, are not placed in these regions. And you have the override radius smooth to make a sort of better blending to the outside. That would look like this. A more natural look. And that's pretty cool. I would like that. I didn't use it often, but I like it. Yeah. Now, this is what you could do here, and yeah, I also would like to show that also objects have distributions, and I mean, for this flat area, we're not using distributions like cavity or erosions or rocks or something like that. But if you want to do a more natural stuff, then I don't know if people are aware of it, but in most cases, I must say they're not. You have noise distributions, okay? So you can use noise for vegetation, which is more natural. So go in for like a Perlin noise, something like that. And if you want to see how the Perlin looks like, enable the heat map. If you want to make it more realistic, then depending on your terrain scale, right? Make the Perlin a little bit like this. And the issue that we're facing here is that you can see there's a lot of red. There's a lot of red here, it's a strong red, and some less red here, and we can see that those parts we have strong red are more populated with the objects than the others. So if you want to make this a bit more, I don't know, how's it said, more radical, I don't know, use the contrast, for example, push it up, and you get something like that. Okay, so this is a more natural look for, forest areas where you have some stuff around it. And yeah, so the frequency, in this case, for example, this is really something important, because specifically using the frequency is something like, this also comes into the question when you're designing your world or your terrain, that the scaling has to fit. I know I don't want to name any game or something like that, but you all play games a lot. And there's typically some games that have a lot of vegetation, are really huge in landscapes, but where you can see the scaling is really wrong. The mountains look like too steep. The objects not really fit into the scene because they're not really matched the proper size and all that stuff. So this is a really hard task, right? So, for example, this area looks more like a small area, and if I do my, if I would have a different frequency here, I could mimic different area sizes just by the visual placement of the objects. Okay. Now let me see, what do we have here on the on that stuff. So we have the scaling.
I think on the terms of the distributions, you could mention the scaling and other effects that the distribution can have.
Yeah,
can count quite handy.
Oh, you mean the object scale or what?
Yeah, I mean the toggles. If you go to the object layer,
Yeah.
And then enable
Oh, here. Yeah.
that you can use the distribution for the density scaling and that
Yeah,
kind of
that's
stuff.
yeah, that's important. Yeah, that's right. So the distribution density and distribution scale, distribution gradient. So this is like, if I disable it, let me show this differently. So let's enable the heat map of the Perlin again. Still, this, even with this contrast, it has some slight blending. You can see that quite clearly here. So if I don't, so in this case, I have for my objects here, I have that use distribution density enabled. So you can see that where the blending was slightly was pretty slight for that Perlin, like here. It means that the object is going to distribute smaller in scaling. Okay. If I disable it, it will just distribute on the same size regardless everywhere the Perlin is. So that's pretty cool. Specifically if you're using it for trees, which are, or let's say for bushes maybe, and for grass too. You have different sizes of grass depending on where the locations are, like shadowed parts, and trees are not just high from the beginning. They are smaller saplings outside of the forest and all that stuff. Same for the bushes, right? So the trees are typically, I think, more larger within the forest, right? Because they're seeking the light, so that's why they grow larger, just as large as possible to get the light. So that could be mimicked with this one, and you can adjust that here too. So as you can see here, using different values. Okay, I have a contrast for my things here, but you can adjust it a little bit about how that could grow and how that could scatter. The same thing would apply for distribution scale. So this gives you a different result here too. And again, I mean, if you look at this image, it looks like a larger area, right? Basically, I haven't changed anything, but it looks visually much larger because my trees look different. And that distribution gradient, I don't know, what was that?
It's for coloring, so you can use the distribution, and then if you go down to the materials,
Yeah, perfect.
you should be able to overlay.
Yeah. Okay, but I think before I do this, we should first explain this one here, right? Okay, so you got this tree here. There's so much. Oh, come on! It's so much. Okay, you got this tree here. You got the properties for this model can be found down here. So what's important to notice is I mean, an object is made up of materials. Like in this case, we have two materials. We have the bark material and we have the leaves. And the settings that you see here for the coloring and gradient, normal strength, and all that stuff is currently set just for the bark. So let's switch to the leaves. So I could color the leaves here in different colors like this. Now, having just one color is not really natural, okay? And loading in many different colored tree versions would be insufficient. So it costs just too much performance. So in this case, we thought it would be great if you could use a gradient, for example, for the trees, for the leaves here. And let's choose something like maybe something like this. So you get different color variations throughout every single tree instance, making them looking way more natural as if you would just use one single color. And the same here is like, this is also important for you to know, is that, for example, if you import objects, then, I mean, we don't know exactly what kind of settings you did in Blender or whatever tool. So you need to adjust them a little bit slightly. So for example, if you have, let's take the bark here, if you would say, I don't know, I think we already made these models here perfect, right? Yeah, we know. Okay, let's go to this. I think here we had that issue here. Yeah, let me switch to, let me see. No, we don't see any specularity here right now that much. Okay, oh, here we can see that slightly. Okay, so let's move to that model here. Here you can see that. Watch this part. So, for example, there is some sort of specularity here, which is kind of unnatural. It locks, yeah, you can see that here too. It's too specular. So if you don't want that, you need to adjust it, okay? So this really depends on how you export your model, with what kind of values and all that stuff. So this is a manual thing that you need to adjust afterwards. But no worries, because models can also be saved as presets. You just can drag and drop them into your objects folders here, and you get the models as a completely saved, just as you adjusted them here, and you can reuse them in any project, okay? So you might need to adjust these a little bit. You can see here you get a different rendering out of it, if you want to use a glass map or not, and all that stuff. You could also have like emission. So if you have, for example, if this model would have an emission texture, then the emission strength would cover that emission texture and make it, you know, glowing. Okay, so that's just for you to understand that trick. And now we can switch to that sort of, where is it? To that gradient distribution that you mentioned. So we go in here. Let's check. Use gradient distribution. What should this do basically? Oh, that's nice. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't I know that?
Yeah. So it's basically taking your distribution gradient that you before used for density and scaling, and
That's
applies that to the color gradient that you have on the material, allowing you to get these kind of variation controls.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that. Why? I could have built better samples.
Yeah, and of course these. So if you go the export route, then those are the gradient details that are encoded in the point cloud, or if you use the detail scattering, maybe you can next show that as well with the object type. Then those are already written in there, so you can use them in another software and build the exactly same way.
That's cool. I really like this one here, that gradient randomness here. It takes out of these typical lines here, just make it very random. It's actually just a distort, right? It looks like a distortion.
Yeah.
It looks great. That looks. Oh, I didn't know. That's really cool. That's really cool. I didn't know that. That's really cool, because that's also something that because forests along the sides might have different colors, because you know the leaves are different. There's much more sun reaching the leaves and the bark, and inside it looks different because it's less sun reaching it, right? So that's really cool. Yeah, I really like that. That's really neat. Awesome. Great. Now I learned something new too. Amazing. Okay, what else do we have here on the list? Yeah, about the details in this sense. So we talked about the export, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about here. So this setting is exactly what you can find here, right? So detail means that all these instances that I have placed here on my terrain, if I select detail and I go to export here to details, it would mean that those things will be encoded in that detail texture. So it would basically just export this sort of stuff, like the permanent.
Yeah,
right?
it exports your distribution map.
Yeah.
So take the distribution map, so that you can use a procedural scatter tool in whatever software you use next.
Okay.
And it for every layer that you have, it creates a new splat map, so you can easily assign them. And
And if I choose instance, then it means that all these, I don't know how much do we have, 21,000 objects that we have here, they are all written entirely with all these settings that I have here, right? With every single setting that we see here in a file. Is it an XML file? What?
No, it's a CSV file.
Okay.
You might be able to set it in the instance export. I'm not quite sure, but typically it's a CSV file. Should be easily readable by every software.
Okay. So it's a JSON file basically, or what?
You can switch it.
XML and JSON. Yeah, awesome. So JSON, okay, that's really cool. JSON files are pretty easy to parse. That's really cool. So even now, because Yeah, that's important to know. To notice is that we do have that exporter working for Blender, right? I mean, the Blender bridge that we have for World Creator. That's really interesting for you guys. If there's anyone in here doing maps for GTA 5, is running his own server. So the Blender bridge. Also, you can explain because you built it.
Yeah. So the Blender bridge is the first bridge that we updated so far to work with objects. So you can take the scene completely as it is in there and port it over into Blender, and then the whole scene will be populated using geometry nodes, and you have some culling in there as well. So it might be a bit slower than in World Creator, because in World Creator we can really optimize it for rendering these massive amounts of objects. But you can basically convert your whole scene over to Blender and work on in there. So that's for the basic workflow. And what you just mentioned before, that in regard to GTA, we've also added modding support for code walkers, so that you can convert your terrain to a file that then can be used on a GTA 5 server. And currently that only works for terrain and not the objects, but we might see on that in the future. But already the terrain conversion part is a huge improvement in getting your terrain over to that editor.
Yeah. And Unity and Unreal, I think Unity is the next one, right?
Yes, Unity should be quite easy to code for. And then Unreal is already also in development. But since they're changing a lot of stuff with every new release, so with PCG and everything, and we want to make it right if we release it, it's quite a pain, but we'll get to it, and it's already in the works. Yeah,
it's really such a pain, right? I know that.
Yeah,
it's really a pain in the ass.
I think we've already talked about it somewhere else. That Godot is coming also.
Godot,
so
right?
That will be up in the pipeline as well.
Yeah, Godot just becomes more interesting because of it's Battlefield, right? It's Battlefield. How is it called? Battlefield.
Battlefield Portal, but
right.
We'll see if we can make it work in there. But I mean, even for base Godot, it can be a quite useful tool.
That's so cool. I mean, that would be so cool, right? If you could build your terrain and all that stuff in Godot and just take it over to Battlefield. I mean, that would be amazing. I mean, it's already so cool that you can do this in World Creator and take it over to GTA 5, basically, right? I mean, one of the biggest troubles was that was the material setup, right, in Blender.
Yeah, because the way GTA blends the material, it's quite complicated. So they have a vertex color blending technique, and it basically limits you to 3 materials per polygon.
Yeah.
Or to 4 materials, and recreating that is really tricky to get right. But we managed to do it, and working now.
Yeah, and the next step is also like having all the objects ported over to GTA, right? That's also on the list already.
That would be ideal.
That would be, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Building your entire, I mean, imagine. Oh, that's important to notice, because people don't even know it, right? And I think we didn't tell anyone until now. World Creator can import GTA 5 models.
Yeah, that's true.
We need to do a tutorial video on this, because it's a little bit tricky, because you need to export it first out of CodeWalker, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then import it into World Creator.
We have added support for, I think it's DDS files, so you can also take the textures that are used in GTA.
That's also new. That's also new. DDS files are also new. Yeah, World Creator. You can import DDS files. I don't do that.
And you can import the objects, and then you can take that whole thing over to Blender and go there back into CodeWalker. We'll do a whole tutorial on the CodeWalker GTA conversion.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that'll be out in the future as well.
For those who are new here, I mean, we just released World Creator 2025. It was 22 September. It's just I don't know. It's just not even 2 weeks ago, and we were so concentrated on just finishing this new version, because it really took a long time. I think the last one was released in November. That was 2024.3. That was that basically just was 10 months ago. It's not. Yeah, no, it was 12 months ago. So
Yeah,
it
roughly.
took almost a year to get 2025.1 finished, right? This is super. I don't know. I mean, I can't understand if people were annoyed because it took so long, but basically the changes that we did are really huge, and we're not. We still didn't show the biome power, and this is what we're going to do next after a few optimization settings that I'm going to show you first. So okay, I think for the objects, is there anything you want to say about the objects anymore?
The world model scale.
Yeah. This is
that would fit in there.
Yeah. Okay, that's important. Yeah. But I think we should show the world scaler with the biomes maybe first, but we can show the object scaler. So in some cases, and because I just mentioned it before, it can be a really huge task to set up the model size and all that, and then adapting the terrain so it looks realistic to the model size, so the entire scene looks realistic in size. And then you find something like, oh, my model sizes are really bad. I didn't adapt them properly. So it would be so great if we just could have one slider that matches everything together. So for the models, if you go to the object step here, there's a global object scale stuff. So you can see it scales everything. And it also keeps the distances. So it just not scales the models up like that. It really scales the settings, the distances, everything else with it. So that way you can, always adjust your entire model setting with everything with just that slider. And there's one more slider, I can show it here too, because also affects your distribution of the models. Like in this case, it also affects the noise, which is the important part where you scaling your world. So this is that noise world scaler. So if I scale this up, you can see that my terrain also scales up. Let me quickly show you it, saving the objects here. And with that, I can scale my terrain. And the elevation of my terrain is also scaling, while it keeps the original layout of my terrain. And it does same for the objects and for the distributions for the objects. You can see that. So if I'm making very small, then terrain gets flatter because I'm like watching it from a higher altitude, and it looks like there's a lot more objects in the scene and scattered differently. And if I want to move in, like I want to have a very close-up view, then of course things would happen. Like I would have higher mountains, higher areas, I would have larger trees and all that stuff. So this matches. And that was important because basically this feature, we just added this feature just before we released World Creator. And the basic idea was that the biomes, if you set up your biomes not completely procedural, then you should be able to scale your world, right? So, and this actually brings me up to the biome, but before we go to the biomes, I'd like to do some optimization stuff. So, because you can see that here in the top. So the frame rate is going to shrink, okay? Depending on how the rasterizer goes through the scene. So the very first thing that you need to understand is the following. World Creator is not using those typical game engine like rendering stuff. It's not like it. It's not rendering polygons, okay? So it's like really like it shoots rays for every single pixel of your viewport. What that means, the larger your viewport is, the slower World Creator gets. Okay? So if I make it smaller, like that, my frame rate just goes up because there are less rays that I have to shoot. Okay, that's typical for ray tracers. However, if you get a quite powerful GPU, it shouldn't be a big problem managing this sort of amount of stuff. And the really good part about this is it's not really interesting if you're doing like 8K terrains full of lots of trees the frame rate is not going to drop drastically, okay? So it's not going to change that much. It really depends on how the light can pass through objects, how often it collides, and all that stuff, okay? And one thing you need to understand is, because this also relates to what comes next in 2026. So this is just a software this is a software path tracer, and it's already extremely fast. It's real-time capable, okay? In 2026, we're going to implement this entirely through hardware using NVIDIA and AMD techniques. So we expect this thing to be like, I don't know, 10, maybe 20, maybe 50, maybe 100 times faster than it is currently. So this means you're getting photoreal images 100% in real time, regardless of how many objects you have in the scene, okay? This will be really, really cool. But until then, we have to live with some restrictions, and that's just natural. So you can see that here we get a pretty low FPS, and maybe the camera is kind of laggy here. You can see that in the video. So let's see how we can optimize a few things here. The very first thing that is quite obvious is you're changing the render mode, because this is the cinematic render mode. This means you're getting really ultra realistic images out of it. So switch to material design mode, and your camera and your frame rate gets a lot better, okay? I personally use this mode when designing my terrain, spreading, scattering all these objects and setting up everything. Another mode you can use is the shape design mode, but this is, this is where the frame rate really goes up. It's really the fastest mode you can enter, but of course, it's more for the shape. It's not for designing, like materials or objects. So it's basically just to see the shape in a proper way, the detail of the shape and all that stuff. So if we want to keep up the cinematic mode because we just love it, what can we do? So the first thing we're going to do is we go to render settings here, and then we have a lot of stuff that we can adjust. The first thing here is, for example, we could reduce the light bounces. Reducing light bounces will give us slightly more frames, but not that much. It still looks great at specific angles, but you can see that lighting specifically gets bad. The next one, I don't recommend yet to use auto performance because this is not really reliable. The next thing is, if you're having a lot of objects spread, just reduce the amount of objects. World Creator is going to do a technique like this, for example. So as you move on a terrain, it will do stuff like that. So this is like, oh, I want to see how that looks like at a specific view, that it looks good. Okay, I'm good to go with it. So that's one of those things you could do. And in the end, if I'm going to do my screenshots or whatever, this does not have any effect when you're exporting your terrain. Okay, the object's got to be exported, not in this area, like all over terrain. So this is just a view thing, just how you view the world. But you can see even here, it does not really increase the FPS. Oh, by the way, look at that number. Just move this up. What number is this? This is, god damn it, 335 million? Okay, so it's not even the limit. Okay, regardless. The best thing you can do is to switch the pixel per frame to 1.5. If you do this, the following is going to happen. As you move the camera, or you're moving your scene, and you're traveling around the scene, it really goes super fast. You don't see it 100% clear, but you can see it in the video how quickly it moves and how fluent it moves. There's a lag in the video, but a slight lag. But if you do this in World Creator, it's really like it runs really extremely good. Okay, so that's one of the best options you basically can do. And as you stop, World Creator is going to build up the image. Okay, so these are one of those things that you could do. Another one, so this, I would say this should be your default settings if you're placing tons of objects like that. Another one, if the lighting is like too dark, like if you move in like this, there are currently two reasons. What the main reason is that we don't have translucency yet supported for the object. So, for example, the leaves typically are letting light rays pass through. So there's a light ray that goes through the leaves and still hits something on the ground and still can bounce around. In this case, it just hits the leaf and goes back to the space or wherever it came from. So it never reaches specific light. So that's why it's too dark here. So you can control this a little bit, but this is just a temporary solution until we get the translucency and the hardware ray tracer included. Remove that sample rejection threshold a little bit. You're lighting up the entire scene. It looks way better in lighting, okay? In this case, it's too dense, of course. So you can play with these values if you just do it a little bit better here. So I would say this is for now, if you're aiming for videos or if you're aiming for screenshots, something like that, then play with the sample rejection values. Do a little bit play with the sun settings here, and also do play with the camera. Where is it? Here we go. With the camera brightness and contrast values, and with the exposure values specifically, to lighten up your scene. However, as said, this is currently a required artistic setup that you need to do for specific locations or for specific scenes that you're creating. This is going to be solved in 2026 once we have the translucency included and the hardware ray tracing included. And the scenes will look like real images, even inside dense forests, as you would be in a real forest, no problem. This would be amazing, totally amazing. As you could do compare like a render that you do in Blender using, I don't know, Octane or Redshift or whatever. You'll be able to do this in real time here in World Creator as well, specifically for environment and more. more on that later. Okay, yep. So we don't want to tell too much right now, right? Okay, so let's get back to this sort of setting here. Okay, now I think it's time to show the biomes, right? Mm-hmm. And move on with the biomes. Should we load a sample, or should we just start with a simple system, with a very simple sample? What do you think?
I mean, we could do the biomes first.
But based on a very
show
simple
how they
sample,
fit together.
Yeah, and then load in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think we first need to explain how they work, right? Yep. To make things a bit more, again, just for better understanding, let's flatten out our terrain here. Okay, so a biome. This basically is a biome. Let's call it biome 01. And let's create another one, and let's call this biome 02. Now, biome 02 is currently overlapping biome 01. So if you're designing biomes, first make sure to enable the one that you want to see. So I personally prefer to design biome bare biome, then save the biome as a preset, then start with another biome, save it as a preset, and in the end, once I'm done, I'm loading in all these preset biomes, and then I start painting or using the amazing procedural distribution features of World Creator to place the biomes randomly. So for simplification only, I'm going to use materials right now, and later I'm going to show you based on the preset, so I don't want to waste your time by building up scenes using objects, making looking at fancy reusing just preset that we created, that you can also download in the customer portal. If you log in under assets, and then you have the biome preset, you can download them and use them for your own projects as well. We're just going to use them exactly the same way, and then I can show you the more interesting ones. So just for understanding reasons, so we'll start with a let's take a red biome here, for example. So we're taking red color, and not going to do anything right here anymore. And I'm going to choose another one. We need to disable the grid here. Adding another material. Well, let's choose the color of the biome. I think that's more easy to understand what's going to happen, right? So we have the biome colors. We're choosing the same material colors for the ground. As you can see, this one overlaps that one, even though this one is activated. Now, first, let's do apply distributions on biome so you can see what's going to happen. So I'm going to add a distribution on that biome. I'm going to use a Perlin distribution that we met before. I'm going to add a contrast effect here too, so you can clearly see what's happening here. So in this case, we have that biome number 2 procedural distributed upon biome number 1 using the Perlin noise. And this one here overlaps the entire terrain. That's one sort you can do. Now imagine that you would have here different colors, different textures for the orange one with different objects and all that stuff. Imagine this could be a desert biome and it would have typical desert filters, desert materials, desert objects. The other one could be like, I don't know, like a rocky biome with the rocky textures, with rocks spread everywhere and all that stuff that you can imagine. And those biomes basically affect everything that you have. So set filters. So for example, if we do get rid of that sculpting here and we do a filter, adding a filter for that orange biome here, and just to make it visual so you can see the difference, right? I'm going to add let's take the hexagon filter here. Then you can imagine already what's going to happen. So my hexagon biome here is really only applied where the distribution tells, and the other one is because there's no filters. Okay, so if I add here something different, what could we choose? Let's take blocks. Yeah, who cares? Let's make larger block sizes. Then this is how biomes work, okay? This is a full procedural approach only. So that way, each time I'm pressing here, the seed, I get different results, either on the terrain and on how the distribution of the biome is set on this terrain, okay? And this is also where the world scaler works like that. So it scales down your biomes, it scales down the entire terrain, everything else is scaled properly so that it matches everything. So you could imagine it like you're rendering a whole world on a small area on the terrain, which is viewed basically like from a very high altitude, or you're rendering a close-up on a very small portion of the terrain, where it's like you're very close to that terrain. And this could go on with as many biomes as you're adding, okay? This takes a little bit kind of practice until you get a good footing about this, but it's pretty easy. And there's one more kind of work that you can do with the biomes. So this is just what I showed you is the procedural way. What I'm going to show you now, let's get rid of that one here, is the non-procedural way. So I'm going to get rid of my sculpt here, and I'm going to get rid of my Perlin here. So let's say I just designed my biomes here, and I'm done with that. Now I can use biome layers. So click here on plus, add a biome layer. It flattens the entire terrain, because the biome layer is not just about painting biomes. It's also about raising height. So it acts like a painter for biomes, and it also acts like a sculpt layer. So it's both. You basically can use sculpt layers in combination with biome layers, but the most common issue or the most common mistake that people do in that case, because we didn't release any videos about that, so I'm totally fine with that, is that the operation is set to override. So even if you set a sculpt layer and you're doing some sculpt here on the sculpt layer, it works. Why? Why is it working? Is it a bug?
I'm not quite
I'm sure I did something wrong.
Yeah, maybe it's the level step might be.
Oh, it's a different level step.
Yeah.
Yep. No, it's the same level step. Okay, it looks like a bug. Oh, forget it. Okay, forget it. We gotta look into this. Okay, regardless, if you have the biome layer and you set to override, it basically should override also your shape layer. Okay, so set it to add And in that case, it would add up with the underlying base shape of your terrain and with the sculpt layers. We're going to use override for now because I want to show you something here. Go to edit, and then you can see these two biomes listed here. So each time you edit biome, it's going to be listed here. And you can see that currently, because this is the top biome, it just overlaps everything. If you don't want that, click that biome and go to fill selection. Now you entirely overwritten everything using this as your base biome. So this means that this is your base biome, it's everywhere on the terrain, and that should be the 100% base one. So if you want to draw on these ones, you select the other biome, and now you have two options here. You could, for example, you could raise mountains and paint that biome, or you just raise mountains without painting the biome. You can lower and paint, or just lower. You can flatten and paint, or just flatten. You can just paint without raising or erase. So the difference is like, if I'm erasing it, you see, I'm raising just the terrain. So it actually is like sculpting the terrain. If I do raise paint, I'm painting this biome and raising it. Like this. Okay? Now, lower is exactly the same. I'm lowering and painting, or just lowering. It acts like sculpting, basically. I could do a flatten paint. It paints and flattens the terrain, or just flatten. But without painting, which means it's not going to remove any thought of paint. It's just kept the painting and the information that was previously in. Or just paint, or erase. Erase. Oh yeah, erasing is bad because basically if you want to erase, you would do, that's a bad operation, that's a bad sample. You would basically use another one. I think this is a bug. Yeah, it's a bug. It's definitely a bug. Also, we need. Could you please put this into Trello because this is definitely a bug. This is
also, we got one question in the chat. What's the difference between clear selection and clear, and the flatten selection and fill selection?
Yeah, flatten does like sculpting. It just flattens the entire terrain without touching any of the biome paintings that you've done. So I mean that's because let's say you just have a pretty nice paint of your biome system, how the biomes are spread on your terrain, but you want to change just the elevations, you know, then or you just want to restart from scratch again. Then you use flatten. If you use clear, it will clear that biome out of everything, so that overlaps here is the topmost. If you want to fill this in, you select fill selection. It just fills in with this. If you select this one, fill, you're filling it with this one. Okay. A clear selection would be like, I didn't try clear selection. What is clear selection? If I use clear selection here, then I'm clearing everything that is marked as the first biome. It's a bit complicated, I must admit.
Yes, so it's always dependent on what you've selected at the top. So
exactly, that's what you need to really get used to, is that you need to select what you're doing. Okay, I don't know how we. I mean, I've never seen such a system before, honestly. It's hard to. It's kind of hard to understand in the beginning, but once you start working with it, you really know how it works, and then it's just fun. Okay, I don't know. Was it clear with the clear, fill, and flatten and all that stuff?
I think so.
I hope so. If not, just keep asking. All good.
Yeah.
Just keep asking. Okay. Let's fill it with this one here again, and let's paint something here again. We can raise and paint and all that stuff. Okay. Now let's just drag and drop some objects in it so you can see that live, what's going to happen. You can see these parts here. So what I'm doing now, I'm going to drag in some of these ones here, so into my objects here. And we need to scale them up a little bit so we can see them. And this is what's going to happen here. So these objects are now only spread where the biome mask tells the system where these objects should be. Okay. And regardless what you set up here for the distance and whatever, it's only on those parts. So this really gives you high flexibility to do a lot of stuff. And which is remarkable actually is the blending between the biomes. If you watch this, how the blending is done, it's really, really nice. It's not hard cut or something like that. This is something that you can control, by the way, a little bit if you go to the biome layer here, for example, because the brush that you're using here, it has a smooth and a strength layer, right? So if you're using a low strength, then you can do something like that. If you're increasing the strength, then it looks like this. So in some cases, that's what I experience sometimes, is like if I want to make it a bit more smooth, I do something like this, for example. So sometimes I just go a little bit and do a correction along the borders. Depends, right? It just really depends on how you do that. Because you could also just use a different brush here, for example, which has a random rotation and which a random strength. So you could, because you don't want to have, I don't know, like hard edges or something like that. You could mix that in a little bit like this. So mixing looks different in that way. You can see that you have these small portions that go into each other, breaking a little bit the hard cuts. So this is a pure artistic design approach that you would do. Yeah, and the same thing that we see here works also for simulations. So let me get rid of that hexagon effect here. Let me get rid of the objects here. And let's add some simulations, like, for example, like debris. So we're adding debris here. Let me quickly see. Let's make it a little bit larger height so we can see them a bit more clear. Also, the simulations work biome based. So that means you can have your biome, like, let's say, I don't know, like a desert biome that has a lot of debris, a lot of small stones everywhere. You could use the simulations, and the simulation runs only on those systems. There's small parts here, you can see them. They're getting smaller if they're leaving the biome. You can see that we have larger, higher ones, which are in the center of this kind here, but they're getting smaller and less height if you're leaving the biome. So this means when this biome blends into another one, then you get a different how's it said, a different elevation, different height of the things. Same for the sand, same for fluid, same for snow and all that stuff. So these are mixing pretty amazing to each other. I really love that. The only thing that you need to be aware of that biome stuff is that biomes only look realistic if they're, if there's some sort of in-between biome, like a transition. It's like you don't have something like a desert and a hard cut and you get a full dense forest. That's very rare. I don't know if this is even something that's available on Earth. I don't know. So basically, always think about, like, if you have two biomes that you want to match to each other, then you probably, most cases, you will need a third biome that goes in between. But that's normal. That's normal. Okay, now let's see how that biome thing would work if you use some preset that we created. Okay, so we have some presets here. So I got some here, 2025. So we get some nice. We got some dunes here. We got some. We don't take these one because these take some specific settings. Let's take, I don't know, let's take that moon one here, for example. Let's take that mountain thing here. The drag drop. Okay, these ones have a lot of materials. Yeah, so loading a lot of textures and all that stuff. And I don't know, let's take, do we have some trees? Yeah, let's wait. Yeah, we got some forest here. Let's take that forest here. Drag drop. We'll create load some in. And you can see we only see still these ones here, so because we just painted these ones basically. And now, because this is the topmost biome, it's not written into the biome layer there, so that's why it just overlaps everything. We go in here for edit. We're selecting our forest, we're going to full selection. And now let's see if we can paint some mountains in it. Okay, so I'm choosing my mountain biome here, go erase and paint. And I'm going to paint, oh, we need to increase the strength here for sure. So let's go do some stuff here. And that mountain biome, of course, also has, I think it has snow. I don't know, at a specific elevation, it should show up some snow. Yeah, there we go, to the proper height values here. So we're going to have some snow applied here. And I need to enable my denoiser for sure. Okay, this is not realistic because, you know, the scaling and the sizes don't really match together here. And then we have that moon biome, so we could just do the opposite here by removing a little bit here of the elevation and put in some moon-like stuff. Here we go. I must admit it's not a great mix right now because I just used completely two different things, but I think you get the idea. So as you can see here, that moon thing has these craters. It has, let me see what it does it have here. It does have some debris, very slight debris. We got some textures applied on it. Here we do have some trees, of course. No filters at all. Some materials that look great. These are, by the way, our assets. Yeah, and then we have that mountain applied here with some snow and all that stuff. Snow material, rock material, strata filter, and erosion filter. And if you want to view this in a little bit in a higher resolution, we go to terrain, switch here to 1/4, for example, and we're getting, after a few short time of generation process, we're getting a really high detailed terrain. Here you go. There you can see the debris here on the ground. Let me adjust the lighting a little bit. Like this. Got some snow, got some stuff around here, floating all my scene. Yeah, and you could extend this, of course, to much larger terrains, no problem. In this case, we would have to adjust the biome layer as well. By the way, this is also important to know. Let me switch back so we get the generation a bit faster. The biome layer, you're not restricted to one layer, okay? So you can use as many layers as you want. For example, you could create a terrain that has like just one biome, and you just add specific regions that look different. You could add a desert region, you could add a underwater, you could add a river biome region, you can add maybe a volcano biome in that terrain. Just by adding multiple biome layers, so you're not restricted to any of these. That's important. Let's match this a little bit here. We could also adjust it in height. We can do blending and all that stuff. So it's a lot of stuff possible here that you can do. We could also just fit it to the entire terrain like this. It's going to calculate a few things. There we go. Just adjusting. So this is a, what kind of terrain? It's a 4K terrain, 1 meter precision. Here we go, it's done. And now this is also where the world scaler comes really interesting, because now, for example, let me show this maybe on a, we could just adjust this, let me show this on a smaller terrain. Just want to speed up the entire generation process right now. So we'll go to this smaller terrain here, and scaling, yeah, we need to generate it. So things will match up like The biome, of course, is painted, so it's not working. This one is not going to match up because it's entirely painted. So I didn't use any sort of noise that is automatically like a procedural generator. But what works is like adjusting the tile size of the textures. The models are being adjusted. So basically you could create the entire terrain shape, the regions, all that, and you can scale the objects and the texture depending on what you've painted. That's pretty handy in my case. Okay, so I think we have everything, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even for the biomes, should be good.
That shows everything there, yeah.
We do have also a biome sampling in here, like this one here, I think.
Yeah, with the mountain.
Yeah,
yeah,
also
exactly.
Pretty cool. Okay, it's loading. It's a huge file. It's currently downloading from the server, and I'm so happy that we have a CDN. Else our website wouldn't work anymore. And then it has to load in everything because I think we have the assets and a lot of materials in that sample, though it's a huge one. Yeah, here we go. That one is crashing for you. Whoa. No, I would ask you what kind of computer specs you have. Yeah, it's. I must say this is also important to know. I mean, WorldCreator is entirely GPU based. Oh, you have a 4070 Ti. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe it's a bug. Maybe it's a bug. But we fixed the bug on a. We had an issue with that. I think it was a memory issue. But we fixed it in my version, so maybe it's because you're using the current release. So just wait for the next update coming very soon. I guess it's going to be fixed then there. Okay, so this will be like a more interesting biome. I think there we have 3 biomes here mixed up. Looks pretty cool and really nice as well. Okay, so we're gonna stop this. So we are almost at 2 hours, so that's a really long time. I'd like to show you what's coming next and also explain a few things about the licensing system. So let's end WorldCreator and switch to the following information screen here. So, can they see them? I don't know. Is it,
Yep.
okay,
yeah,
perfect.
It's live.
So, I got an issue here in the image. On the left one, it's showing what's next in 2026. That's wrong. It means what's next in the next version coming now in October, and we will have another release before Black Friday. So just ignore the image on that one. Let me see if I can quickly switch over to another one so make it clear. Yeah, I have it here somewhere. Just a second. Yeah, regardless, it's okay, no problem. Okay, what's next in 2025? So you can see that a few things are done. So fluvial advection, also called color erosion, that you might know from Gaia. We're going to take that into WorldCreator. It was a request on by a user on Discord, and I really love the results. So this is definitively coming to WorldCreator. We have a pretty nice implementation already that looks pretty good. We're going to evolve it a little bit more, but this is actually, yeah, it can be marked as done. Then we have a new noise. It's called layered noise. This will create some sort of layered structured noise. The idea was to give you a good noise for creating like different surface rock layers and all that stuff that you can use gradients for. Also request was the HDRI render export for the images. So we have included this already. Then the custom sync folder request. This was also a request by user. He wanted to have a different, being able to have a different sync folder to be set, not the default one. Then there's a new effect coming. It's called, is it called step? Yeah, it's step, right.
Yep.
It's a bit like the contrast, right?
Nah, I think it's basically a terrace filter, but not for the height, but for distribution.
Yeah.
So you get individual steps or basically terraces that will be
Okay.
in your distribution to give you a different kind of transition.
Then we have a new distribution. It's called texture, right?
Mhm.
This was
That is
mainly
basically that you can import any kind of image you have on your PC into the distribution stack directly. You could, in theory, do this before by creating a mask,
right.
loading a texture in there, and then referencing the mask in the distributions. But that is quite complicated, so we added that to simplify it.
Right. Then, which is not done yet, is the upgraded gradient UI control, because currently it's just a drop down, and if your window is too small, then some gradients just are out of view. So this is going to be fixed. Then the level steps for materials, that's a really new thing. So currently we have the level steps for the filters, and the idea was to give the level steps also for the materials. This gives you an immense control over how materials are affecting your terrain, because currently the materials are just set for the highest possible resolution, but at that point you'll be able to mix them in with lower resolutions too, and that could open up complete new possibilities, specifically for, you know, coloring your terrain. So I'm really looking forward to this feature, and it will increase performance drastically. This will be really cool. This will be really cool. Yeah, then the custom base shape tool, as known in World Creator 2, with, you know, those diamond squares that were hovering over the terrain. You can drag them and move them up and down. I mean, actually we have this already in, but it's like that. It's this grid sculpting. When you create a sculpt layer, you can use a brush or you can use a grid. It's basically the same, but I know it's more easy to have a toggle in the toolbar, clicking it, and then the diamonds appear and you just can drag it up. That's yeah, I think that's more convenient. So we just put this back. A new asset pack is coming too. It's a desert asset pack. It will be included only in the Professional Studio Enterprise licenses. And we have the object export for Octane version of World Creator. So if any Octane users in here that have World Creator purchased through Otoy store, no worries, we did not forget you. So this is coming to Otoy as well. It's not yet finished, but it will become also before Black Friday, so no worries about that. Yeah, the more important part is what's next in 2026, and I already mentioned that hardware ray tracing is coming. So this will just give such a performance boost to World Creator. That will be really cool. We have planned 3 more 3D asset packs, some Nordic jungle and forest things. We will also just add them to the current licenses, so you don't have to pay on top of everything. They will be available as soon as they are released for all Professional Studio Enterprise users. Then translucency. So you can tell a material for an object to be translucent. That means light rays will be able to pass through that object with a specific threshold and lighten up the scene even better. That would be a really huge game changer for the renderer itself. New procedural sky system. Currently it's very restricted to a Earth-like coloring, but this is going to change. So then you can mimic every kind of coloring for the sky, like doing Mars. I don't know what kind of other planets you can imagine of different sky systems. Then cloud layers. So not just one cloud layer, but having the option to create as many cloud layers as you want, with a different height offsets and all that stuff, with different distributions, so you can really create some really amazing nice clouds, deeper clouds, higher areas, high altitude clouds, fog clouds and all that stuff. So they will be very similar to fog layers basically. Water layers, same for that. Not just one single ocean, but having multiple water layers where you can also just load in a mesh and apply a water shader on them. This is primarily meant for high altitude lakes or low altitude lakes, and even for ocean level. Then of course for rivers and all that stuff. So this is coming. Really looking forward to this. We'll be able to create really nice renders. And of course light sources. Now that's really interesting because we have that path tracer. You'll be able to place point lights, area lights, direction lights, spotlights, so everything you know from other applications like Blender and Cinema 4D, to lighten up your scene and giving it pretty nice atmosphere. Lens flares, of course, for as a camera effect. We're going to add better color grading. We're going to add better environment maps, which means the current environment mapping is nice if you adjust it properly. Actually, this should work out of the box without too much adjustments. So this is the goal for that one. Indoor rendering. So this means inside buildings. We were thinking a lot about extending World Creator in this direction too, because now that the renderer becomes so much more powerful, and we're able to, you know, create massive landscapes with a really nice rendering already. And once we have that hardware ray tracing included, all that stuff, I think it's just one more step to take to be able to, you know, design houses, or do some renders of some really nice houses, interiors, garden design, all that stuff. Maybe even up to cities. So I think this is just another evolution step that we just have to go. Supersized screenshots, so not just limited to your current resolution, but to whatever resolution you want to have. So that's mainly because we also wanted to have actually high resolution screenshots for backgrounds for iPhone or for any kind of Android, and for 4K resolution monitors, and even higher for really creating large posters that we could put on the wall and all that stuff. This is coming too, and of course camera animation system. So we didn't show that actually we have a very basic camera animation system in World Creator, but we thought it just not worth to mention it in this live stream, as we're going to cover this in a tutorial video. So if you go to the website, which we are going to do right now, so let's switch to the website of World Creator. So this animation here, which is down, where is it? Here. This animation was done in World Creator. So what we did is a very simple thing. You can find the settings under, I think under render settings it was, yeah. That you can just define a start camera and an end camera. You can define how many samples World Creator should create before it moves on, and how long the rasterizer should, the path tracer should clean up the image before it renders it out. And that tool currently just renders out in a image sequence, so it's very basic. You need to have another tool to import that image sequence and create the video file. But all these ones here, as you can see here, these were World Creator samples, and we just did that entirely in World Creator. So this feature is going to be improved. The goal is this. The goal is what Aaron Westwood did for us doing that IAM video. So this is the goal since World Creator 2022. We want you to be able to create exactly these kind of renders, these kind of landscapes. These kind of landscapes can be done, but this kind of render it's not possible in that quality right now. But this is what we want to do, and you should be able to do that and export it and bring it over to any kind of application you can think of, like Blender, Cinema 4D, or whatever, Unreal, Unity, Godot, CryEngine, I don't know. So this is the goal, and this is where we want to go, and I think we can reach this goal in 2026 with the new features, specifically with the hardware ray tracer. So we'll see how far we can push this to come to this result in the end. Okay, So regarding, because we had a few questions, one more thing that we added is here a roadmap that you should, that you now can follow up about the new features that we've added, that the bugs that we fixed, and when the next release is planned. In this case, for October 2025. Another thing, we had requests about showcasing our licensing system here. So I'm going to show it and explain it a little bit. So currently we have that lifetime license included. We're not yet clean if we should keep it up for a long period or just for the short period, we'll see. Currently it's going to be available for the next 2 or maybe 3 weeks before we just take it out, or if we just convert it as okay, it's always in there, it makes sense, so we just keep it. I mean, currently the team is more like, we just have it for a specific amount of time, and we just go on with the perpetual and yearly use as previously. However, the lifetime license currently, for those who are customers of our creator, and at least I think it was like extended the maintenance at least one time, they should see, if they log into the customer portal, they should see a message like this. Even if they click on it, they can see some of those coupon codes, which gives them 20% off if they choose to upgrade to the lifetime license. So we have currently received a lot of upgrades to the lifetime license from long-term World Creator users. A lifetime means it's more expensive, of course, but it also means you get everything, and there's no any further additional cost regardless how many updates we release. So if you get the lifetime now, you get every update even in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years without any further additional costs. Okay, that's the advantage of the lifetime license, because currently the perpetual license, that's also a lot of questions that we get is like, oh, the perpetual doesn't mean that I have to pay afterwards, can I use the versions afterwards, or is it forever? The perpetual license is like, you purchase it once, and let's say you purchase it now, okay? You get a 12-month maintenance plan. So that means after the time you purchase it, you have 12 months where you get every single update for free. And it means after that 12 months are over, you can use all those versions that was released within that 12 months, including the version that you purchased. And the usage of that version is forever. Okay, so this is like, that's what you get. However, if the 12 months are over, and let's say we're releasing World Creator 2027, you need to extend your maintenance plan in order to get it for another 12 months. So this is explained here. If you go to the maintenance renewal, it's exactly what I'm telling here, and the price is listed here as well. So for the indie license, it's $31. For the professional license, it's $52 for the extension. This price currently is 30% off. So this is the 30% off price. Basically, it's I think 50% regarding it. I don't know. Or was it 30? I don't know. I need to check. But
30 around that.
Yeah, around 30. So it's not that expensive basically, but you need to understand that within that period, all the versions released within your maintenance period and the version that you purchased, you can use them forever. So you don't have to purchase it afterwards. Only if you think like, oh, it's a new version, it's an amazing version, it's a great version, I need those features, but oh, my maintenance ran out, then you have to renew. Then you get that one too for another 12 months, of course. Then another thing is, we have slightly adjusted a little bit the contents of these licenses. So the indie license has been increased regarding resolution. Before that we had 4K by 4K. Now we have 8K by 8K. So it's really a huge landscapes that you can create and export. However, it does mean you have no unlimited terrain size. So it's limited to 8K, okay? Then that new object scattering feature, it's not included in the indie license. So if you want to scatter objects, you need the professional or any higher tier. Indie license doesn't have it. You also have no access to 2D or 3D assets. So as an indie user, if you want to have them, you need to either upgrade or get the professional version. Also, there's no World Creator 2 nor World Creator 1 included. World Creator 2 was the version before World Creator 2022 showed up. It's a very good version, basically. It's not a bad one. And World Creator 1 is, it's totally outdated, of course, nowadays. Okay, so it's just a goodie. We could just give it out because we have it, so why not? I would say for World Creator 2, 1, it's not worth paying anything more. World Creator 2 is still an amazing application. It's still powerful. It's still really good. So yeah, it depends. But of course, the latest one, 2025.1, now completely outbeats World Creator 2 in total, in everything. The only difference before that, when World Creator 2024 was compared to World Creator 2, was that in World Creator 2 we had object placement already included, and in 2024 we did not have this. So basically, this latest version of World Creator is really like, it's like World Creator 2, but so much better. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I think also World Creator 2 was running on a rasterizer, if I'm right?
Yeah, right.
So it wasn't even able to process the same amount of detail that now the new version can
Exactly.
support.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a pure. Yes, the terrain was pure based on polygons, basically. Yeah, it was not like now path trace. Yeah. Then also no beta access. So if you want to have beta access, which we regularly do, specifically for larger releases, then the next beta cycle will start when we release World Creator 2025.3 in November. Then we're gonna start development of World Creator 2026.1. This means with the start of this development and finishing the very first feature, we are going to release a beta version of that too. It's like a preview version of the upcoming version. We did this with World Creator 2025, 2024 regularly. So those with beta access can test out the latest features of the next version of World Creator. And that way you also can have some, how is it said? You can cooperate with us, like telling us what's good, what's not good, what do you want to do, what you want to see in that version, what's buggy, what not, giving us feedback to improve it. So this is one of those differences. And one more thing which is very important is the limited commercial use. So basically every single license tier has commercial use, but the indie version is a little bit limited on this. It says the indie license may only be used for commercial purposes if the annual gross revenue generated by World Creator does not exceed $50,000. This limitation only applies to purchases made on or after 22 September 2025. So don't panic if you are an indie user. If you already own the indie version of World Creator because you purchased it last year, it's not going to affect you. Okay, it's only affecting you if you're upgrading to the next version. So any version before is not affected by this one. The same applies for the professional, studio, or enterprise. I mean, the studio license is new, but for the professional enterprise, it's just exactly the same. So it only affects all those who purchase the current version, but not the previous one. The professional users of the previous version are not affected by any revenue caps, either for enterprise, professional, or the indie version. Okay, then the studio license, this is new. That's completely new. We introduced it because a lot of small studios were like, do I have to get the enterprise version, which is really quite expensive, we can't really afford it, we're just a small studio. It would be great if you could do something in between. So we heard of you, and we are really aware of it. We are just a small studio too, so we really understand that. So that's why we introduced the studio license here. even with volume discounts. So if you get more licenses, you get higher volume discounts. So this is really like to support small indie studios. Let's call them. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the yearly license. That's also interesting. Previously we had the indie and the professional license also available as a yearly license. Now this is obviously gone. It does not affect existing subscriptions. Okay, so if you already have a subscription on a yearly indie or professional license, you're not affected. It's not gone. As long as you keep that license active, it's still there. You can even cancel it and just renew it, no problem. You can do that. But you can't purchase it as a new license right now. It might come back, we'll see. We will try to figure out a bit how it really pays off, if I want to be honest. Because I don't think it's like using World Creator on a daily basis, so it's not that great to have it like a yearly license. We're just not sure about that. But the monthly licenses are gone, that's for sure. Those won't come back. If you're more for monthly licenses and still want to use Work Creator, then I suggest go to Otoy's website and subscribe to Otoy's Octane packages, because Work Creator is there also available on a monthly basis. So just in case you were more preferring monthly licenses, then that would be a good choice for you. Okay, I think that's it. We're pretty much done with the stream. So what you can expect in the next few days and weeks, more tutorial videos. Definitively. This is coming. We are already working on them. I think Ursula is going to do this Blender thing, showcasing you how to export, how to build your scene in Work Creator and export everything alongside with the object over to Blender, doing a nice render in Blender, and then bring it over to Codewalker inside GTA 5 2. So that would be a really nice tutorial. I'm looking forward to it too. I'm going to do another Let's Create video where I'm using more biomes and setting up nice terrains with you. And we will do a lot of small tutorials. So set like small tips, not really long ones, like 5-minute ones, explaining, you know, the smaller features that you might not be aware of, just to help you to get started very quickly with that. Okay,
we got some more two more questions in the chat about whether it's possible to import the objects from World Creator into Unreal Engine using the bridge at the moment. We are still updating the bridge, so that's coming. Currently, it's not possible. You can of course export them using the conventional export, but the bridge functionality is not there at the moment.
Yeah. The bridge is just is basically just a helper tool, so it just should help you to get things done. I must say that I mean, this is a very pretty new version of World Creator, and we thought that the Blender plugin would be more important for the Blender users, specifically also with the GTA 5 community. So that's why we have implemented and focused on the Blender bridge for importing all this stuff. Unity is planned next, so Unity is next on the list because it's way more easy to get things done for the Unity bridge, because Unity is a bit more easy about implementing these things. After this is done, I think that should go pretty fast. Also, I think so, right? You said it should be, yeah, I don't know how long it would take, a week, maybe 2.
Probably a week.
Maybe. Then we should have it in Unity, and then we're going to focus on Unreal. And please understand, I mean, Unreal is an amazing engine. It's fantastic, but it's pretty tricky to implement stuff for them because their documentation about terrains is really, really rare. We experienced that in the past 2 or 3 or 5 years, I don't know. However, they are changing also currently their terrain system, so the API is changing as well. So that means writing a plugin for that engine is currently a little bit tricky because you have to change and adapt a lot of things all over the time. And you know that they are changing currently the terrain system, right? So I expect it to be very, very difficult right now. So we'll see how long that will take. But of course, we're not going to say we're not doing anything for Unreal, because we want this to be available in Unreal 100%. So this is coming too. No worries about that. Unreal, Unity, Blender, absolutely a must-have.
And then there was one more about what?
Tyler is there.
yeah, seen it. Nice. And there was a question: which version is currently in the O2 Black Friday one, Indio or Studio Plus?
Yeah, currently it's still 2024.3, but I already wrote an email to Otoy, and we already talking about this. So this is I think I'm pretty sure that we'll give the next Black Friday will cover version 2025.3. So because we're releasing two more versions of this one, so you will have the latest World Creator version in the Otoy Black Friday deal, or if you're going to subscribe to Otoy, I think in November or the end of November, you will have the latest version of World Creator. No worries about that. Otoy users, you get the latest one. Yeah, including the objects. Really, come on. I mean, this is so cool. Look, if you have the objects and you build your scene in World Creator, now imagine exporting this into Octane and then render it out. Basically, you will be able to do things like that. Things like this video here. Because Aaron did, he used Cinema 4D and Octane, but it was Octane doing the rendering, right? So, this should be no problem. This should be pretty easy actually. And if they're including the OrbX file, we need to see how this works. Then basically you could even export everything directly from Octane into Cinema 4D, or directly into Cinema 4D using the Octane plugin. Oh, that's great actually. That's awesome. Blender has an Octane plugin too, right?
Yeah, but I don't know what the current state of development is there.
It should be very active. Should be very. Yeah, I mean, Octane is, I would say, number one. I don't know, number one standard.
Yeah, but they changed some stuff around for it. So
Oh,
previously it was like a different Blender branch, and now it's integrated.
That would be cool, actually. That would be cool. If we have the OrbX export for the objects too, then this should be possible already. Yeah. Wow, that would be great. That would be great. Can't wait. Can't wait to get that. Awesome. Okay. Any more questions? If not, then we can close the stream and finally head to bed. It's pretty late in Germany. But if you have questions, then I'm still willing to answer, of course. If not, all good. We have some break today. Tomorrow, tomorrow we have a free day in Germany. It's a special day in Germany. It's how's it called in English? Unite of West and Eastern Germany, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Unification Day or something.
Yeah. So it's a free day. No working tomorrow. We're back on Monday again. Doing the tutorial videos. Okay. I hope you all enjoyed. Hope you had a lot of fun, and join us on Discord. Say hi and follow us on our socials to see what's the latest news and what's coming around here and what we finished. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, have a great evening, have a great night. Sleep well, or do nice work tomorrow. Okay.
Bye bye.
Also, good night.